This feels like an absolute dream as Montreal, coming off the heels of their 6th win in a row, Nick Suzuki having the highest scoring season by a Hab in 30 years, Cole Caufield further pushing his career high, Josh Anderson getting on the board, everything went right, Monty incredible in net, just plus the Ivan Demidov news, and even Ken Hughes spoke about the situation of when he will be here and what the expectations are and all of this. And honestly, feels like the season of dreams right now. Everything's going right for the Montreal Canadiens. We're going to talk about all this. First reminder though, you guys did it earlier. You're doing it every video. If you want updates on all the latest Habs news, whether it's Demidov, whether it's the playoffs, anything like that, this is the spot to be. Completely free to subscribe. Let's jump into this, Jesse. And we got to start with our boy Ivan. We'll get into the game in just a bit. That was unbelievable, but everyone's here to talk about Ivan, or Ivan, should I say. They're calling him Ivan on the broadcast. Obviously, it's how you say it in Russian. Maybe we'll start saying Ivan, Ivan, mix it up, doesn't matter. Regardless, here is his contract, and there's a fun little thing here, Jesse. Of course, well, first, let's show. He did sign his ELC, of course, since we recorded the video earlier, as you all know. Big pop at the Bell Center tonight for that. But according to Puckpedia here, year one, $775K with a $97,500 signing bonus. He got on a plane right away, he said, with his girlfriend, came to Montreal, $55,000 games played bonus. And Jesse, the $525K Conn Smythe bonus. And look, I know we'll talk about the game later, but looking at the playoffs, that might come true. Pull a Ken Dryden like he did. Look, everything is going right for this. We'll get into what Ken said in a second, but to see all these details, the contract too, I just love that little quirk in there.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. And again, just showing how highly motivated he is to really hop on that plane so quickly. He's getting over here to know that the boys are getting ready for that playoff push right now. So again, amazing just to see that motivation there.
And look at Kent Hughes. Like, even he said, now they asked him at the intermission, right? Well, what are your expectations for him? When's he going to play? He said, look, we're not sure yet. We don't know. Because again, there are processes you have to go through here. But Kent at the first intermission said, we got to work on work permits and things of that nature. Of course, for anyone that's ever worked in a different country, you know that's not always a fast process, though in the NHL, they usually have ways to speed it up. He said as soon as the permits are there, he'll be here ASAP. We don't want to put too much expectation on him. We're talking about a 19-year-old kid traveling across the world to come play. But Jesse, by all accounts, Ivan, he's ready to go. And even to hear this, Kent is like, look, he didn't maybe want to say, I think he's going to play top line right away. But you could tell he was excited. Said he didn't talk to him too much. I think Kent was trying to be a bit humble. But after cooking, like, just hearing what Kent had to say here, it just gets me somehow on another level of excited here and all these details coming up.
And again, you have to feel like those work permits aren't going to take too long to kind of get in. You have to feel like we got some Habs fans there that are going to really expedite that whole process. Going to be absolutely unreal. The fact that, like, maybe have a couple games where, again, he's not going to have as much pressure. But, like, the more he can kind of get before the playoffs, where obviously, he's going to service maybe one or two. I think we could expect to maybe see him, hopefully, maybe a little bit more than that. Obviously, not too much runway to finish off the season. But absolutely nuts. The fact that kind of really any kind of time that he gets with the team before getting the playoffs is obviously going to be huge preparation for a big push coming up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Kent said. Look, Kent was like, listen, hopefully he gets 1 or 2 games before the playoffs. I know a lot of Habs fans are hoping he gets more because, look, we got 2 days off now. This was our 5th game in 8 nights in the Habs. They looked like it early, but they came back. Again, we'll talk about that in a second. But look, we got Friday, Saturday back-to-back. How great would it be to get Ivan Demidov in his debut on a Saturday versus the Leafs? Oh, would be amazing. Still cool against the Senators, but regardless, Jesse, I think we got to get into this game because boy, what a game it was. So fun. As always, feel free to take a pause, look at the box score. There's a lot to break down here. I mean, the third line doing it again. I think we just start there, Jesse. The third line tonight, we'll roll the highlights again in a minute, but specifically Brendan Gallagher. I know Anderson missed that insane play by Lane Hutson where he had a couple of ankle breakers feeding him in front. He was frustrated, came right back out and scored the next shift. But Gallagher, Anderson, Dvorak, Gallagher, this is before his empty netter. So Gallagher now has 13 points in his last 12 games, working his butt off every single night, Jesse. I know there's other guys we got to get to, but to me, this is one of the things that stood out tonight. And I just love to see Gally getting this little redemption arc here as we're fighting for the playoffs again.
And Anderson getting the game winner. Why not start there? A guy who's been forechecking all season long, all night long, really, and then getting rewarded when it really matters. Again, disrupting, getting there on the forecheck, and then getting to the front of the net, kind of pushing that defender to the side, stick on the ice. Obviously, just like a beauty finish. 15 goals for Josh Anderson, which is just so huge. And we know that's, it was the forecheck from Detroit that really got us behind the 8 ball early on this game. And it was going to be a question of, can we really kind of establish our own, and how can we really kind of combat that in, you know, in our own zone against a strong forecheck where Detroit, they were obviously being very aggressive. What really helped for this third period as we're starting to kind of wrestle that game, for sure Cole's helping us get, you know, tie it up there in the second, but I mean, like picking up that pace of play, but some very subtle adjustments from the decor where it's like, we're getting in trouble because they're forecheck, and then we're trying these passes that are these soft ones, right, that are getting us hemmed into our zone there. So you notice there was really an adjustment for the defenders. Hold on to the puck a little bit more to make sure that when we are making that pass in our defensive zone to get that puck out, that outlet pass, that is kind of a sure shot. So some real small things game within the game that really allowed us, again, to really get the W tonight.
Yeah, like, again, that first period, like, the Habs, like I said to you right before we started recording, for some reason, there's a habit right now to have the most disgusting first period we've ever seen and just come back and say, forget about that. We're the better team. We're just going to play better the second and third. It's like the Habs are like, look, we didn't quite get enough rest. 5 games in 8 days. First period, we'll take chill. We'll get outshot. We were getting outshot 30-9 when Caufield scored in the second period there. And it's like, yo, we'll just chill. You know, we got Monty in net. Where is he? Do I have the picture here? I gotta have it. There he is. Monty having a phenomenal game, making some clutch saves. Like, look, I'll keep you boys in this game. No worries about it. Habs come back. It's like black magic. I don't know what it is, Jesse. It's why I say this is like a season of dreams right now. Any thoughts on Monty again before we dive into, like, on some of the other guys? Really, there's not too many. We got to talk about Lane Hudson as well, but I just thought that I wanted to really shout out Monty. You could give an argument for him being the Mitchell Stevens player of the game. I don't know. We might have to decide this later. It's hard to give this to one guy tonight. It was such a team effort, but he kept us in the game from the start, getting pounded with shots. He stood tall, 5-0 in his last 5 starts with, like, I think it's like a 1.6 something GAA now. Unreal stuff from him recently.
Yeah, he's battling. And again, he kept us in that game really in that first period, you know, to really get this W, where why this win matters so much is because the Detroit Red Wings, they were the ones kind of projected to start off the season to maybe grab this last wildcard spot. They came so close within just 1 point last year, right? And their rebuild has actually been going on a little bit longer than the Montreal Canadiens. So for us to be ahead of schedule, pretty much like virtually kind of eliminate them while kind of securing our spot, just has to hurt so much for their organization, but is really just reinforcing all the things that this Montreal Canadiens team is doing right now to get us ahead of schedule, where it doesn't need to be this way. And if we're not snagging this spot, you know, maybe the Red Wings hanging around a little bit longer and maybe claw some way, you know, back into that. So obviously this is just what's amazing. Montembeault, though, being really at the root of this, like playing some very solid hockey just as a whole. And has it always been pretty all the time? No, but has it just like kind of resulted in wins, especially since that 4 Nations break for this team? Absolutely. So that's really the big thing, where he's just showing a lot of heart. And again, showing that fighting spirit, which has really just made us love Montembeault, who just keeps getting better and better.
I mean, 30 wins this season for Samuel Montembeault. Mind you, he was a waiver pickup. Now, they mentioned that in the broadcast. The last goalie to be a waiver pickup and get 30 wins was, I think they said, Ilya Bryzgalov. He had a 42-win campaign at one point, but still, it's extremely rare for goalies to get picked up on the waiver wire and have the success that Monty's had, especially as of late. There's one final guy I want to talk about before we talk about the magic number for the Habs and the implications on the standings. Well, I mean, there's a bunch of guys we could mention. Again, like you said, Anderson with 2 points is great. Matheson getting an assist. Of course, he had that bad turnover early, but I thought he made up for it with his game later. But like the one guy I want to talk about is Nick Suzuki, again, because just straight up history, Nick Suzuki passed Alex Kovalev. He tied him last game with 84 points for the most points for a Habs since 07-08. Now Nick Suzuki officially has the most points by any Montreal Canadien since the 1995-96 season, where Pierre Turgeon and Vincent Damphousse had 96 and 94, I think, points respectively. Suzuki, I don't know, the way he's playing, he might even catch that, though it's tough to say. 4 games left, Jesse. He's only 4 points away from having a 90-point season, which would be an insane jump. He has been so good. Not only that, Jesse, he was double shifting the PP1 and PP2, and then when it came down to it late in the game on the penalty kill, they put him on the PK1 to take the draw. Jack of all trades, master of every single one of them. I can't praise Nick Suzuki enough, seriously.
Yeah, again, you know, just coming up with just, you know, such an amazing effort and just always doing what this team really needs at the right time. Again, you know, the fact that this guy can crack 90 points without, you know, having all the support that he really needs from kind of those other lines, maybe taking away that pressure. Like, again, with Ivan Demidov coming over with that future 2C, like, if this is what he can really kind of crack right now, and with this team still being very young, Slav still very much just playing the second half of the season. Like, you put a lot of these different factors together, and like, I'm surprised by the fact that we're like considering that Nick Suzuki could become like 100-point player.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as next season, we could be seeing those type of jumps from a guy that's bringing the type of defensive game that he is right now. Like, I'm just blown away from our stars. Again, like Caufield obviously being such a big part of Nick Suzuki's success, like him getting so close to another milestone of like hitting those 40 goals as well. Again, like just doing everything. Caufield battling in front of that net. Obviously, they were coming together. They had some very close opportunities. That chemistry between them, you have to feel is just growing, and will lead for more opportunities for Nick to even get even greater plateaus in the future. But just considering everything he's doing, can we start giving Nick Suzuki, this is a PSA to the NHL, it's like, can we start giving Nick Suzuki that, praise? I know Barkov is good, we heard about it before, but Nick Suzuki needs to start getting the flowers for the type of player that he is.
Oh, 100%. I think people are starting to come around on it, especially with his performance since the Four Nations. He's been the best player in the league since the Four Nations. I think you can make a solid argument for that. Robert Thomas, too. I mean, those two guys very similar. I think they're going to be tied. Their names tied for many years to come. But again, with some more support coming in, Jesse, we know we might get a 2C this offseason, and we almost certainly will. But you got Demidov, whatever it is, coming over. We'll see what he says he wants to be called by. But yeah, there's so much great stuff. I'm wondering if he'll get PP one time at some point. Hard to take Slav off that right away, but I mean, like, how can you deny the guy? But regardless, one final thing before we sign off. Just wanted to mention, before we go, the magic number for Montreal. Now, as we record this video, the New York Islanders are tied with the Nashville Predators in the third period. You will probably know the result of that game, so go check it right now and then come back, because if the Islanders win that game, then the magic number is still 4. If the Islanders lose in overtime or in regulation, Montreal just needs 3 points total in their last 4 games to guarantee a playoff spot. That can go down, and that considers everyone else winning out, Jesse. We're guaranteed a playoff spot. If the Isles lose, 3. If they win, it's still 4 points. Crazy stuff coming up, and we're going to be here all week long talking with you guys. Cannot wait for it. That'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel. Join the hype train. We're going to be here all playoffs long, all off season long, all the hype train for everything happening Montreal Canadiens. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.